Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of GnWC Weekly. I'm the Duke, and I'm joined by my good bro.
And I'm Ray Combs. Survey says you're in for a lot of fun.
That's fantastic. That was short and sweet, to the point. I liked it.
And I used my real name.
No, you're not Ray Combs. That's Angry Larry. I'm the Duke, and we're going to get to some news and notes. Larry, take it away.
I don't really have any news and notes.
Okay, no news and notes.
Well, I mean, what you want to talk about Kid Cash calling out CM Punk? That was pretty funny.
Yeah, Kid Cash calling out CM Punk. We saw it on NXT tonight, but man, if you saw like the picture immediately following the Austin Aries injury, he looked like, you know how the Ninja Turtles looked, like the old Ninja Turtle toys looked like, the original ones that, you know, they had the squinty white eyes and stuff like that. You remember that back when we were growing up? That's what he looked like. That's what his picture looked like, was one of those old Ninja Turtle toys. It was pretty jacked up.
Yeah.
So, I mean, he was doing the big cheesy grin, so that exaggerated it, obviously. But anyway.
He's a ham.
Yeah.
But the other news worthy item here as the Cubs score another run. Sorry if you're DVRing it. But the other news is the whole 205 show coming to the WWE Network.
Yeah, I don't understand adding live to it since we already have the forced SmackDown live all the time. It seems like they could have been slightly more creative on that front, but besides that, that's interesting.
Well, that makes cruiserweights no longer exclusive to Raw. I don't understand what's going on there. Did we already give up on him on Raw, so we're going to push him over to SmackDown now?
Yeah, it's weird because it's going to be airing after SmackDown and it's going to be live. So one would think that means
I'm glad it's not a taped show from like before or after Monday Night Raw.
Sure. Yeah, I'm glad that's true too. But I mean, does that mean it's going to be? I don't know. You know what I would like? I'd like for them to just. I had this concept in my head when I first heard about it. I'm like, you know, it'd be really cool if it was not Lucha Underground. Okay, I don't get me there, or don't get me wrong on that. But if it was more of they would go to like gyms or like gyms or like
a smaller Full Sail arena.
Well, no, like training, like they would tour like like wrestling training facilities.
Yeah,
and they would do their show, but it would be like a local gym type environment where it's real gritty and real, you know,
they'll never want to bring that bingo hall feel to TV. Full Sail will be they'll never want to bring that bingo hall rec center kind of indie feel to their own product.
Yeah, I guess not, but still, I don't know. I just had this vision in my head of sort of like in movies when there's training montages or like the gym that some dude just happens to work at who needs to be a fighter, being fighting shape or whatever. I don't know. I just had sort of that picture in my mind.
Yeah, there's production costs on top of everything, and they're already there doing a live show.
Yeah, right.
So it's just it's now just. The 1 hour increase, more salary across the board is pretty much there's more to it, but that's basically like, you know, there's no travel, there's no setup, there's no
I'm still unsure if it means they will be with SmackDown Live, since it's going to be a live show immediately following SmackDown, or if they're going to be like at the Raw house show and then they're going to be beaming it in from whatever Raw house show.
I don't know if Raw house show works Tuesday night.
Well, I know SmackDown house show works Monday night. So
do they really? Okay,
yeah.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
No, they're going to do it immediately after SmackDown because they're there. I mean, they're there. They're live. They don't have to have a second crew ready on standby in the other arena. They don't have to set up the lights for TV. The
True enough.
Full Titantron, all that stuff, you know?
Yeah, so I guess it will be. I guess they are going to SmackDown. So
I mean, they could be both. I mean, it's their ultimate goal to put Rich Swann on every single TV show they have.
And so I have no problem with that.
Well? I listen. I'm not saying in a point of view where I have no problem with it. It's just every single WWE TV show I've watched for the last 3 months seemed to be like, "Can you handle it?" I was
Well,
just
maybe
like,
if
this
you
guy's
would,
all over the place.
maybe if you would actually answer the question, they would stop asking it.
I am pretty sure I said all night long, but my TV is only one way. It's not two way.
Well, get a better TV. Hello.
I should. I think for whatever.
Yeah.
4K does that kind of stuff now.
400K.
Hey, how about all those
400K.
people that own 3D TVs?
I know, right?
Suckers.
That was a great idea by
I almost bought stock, and the only reason I didn't is because it wasn't readily available.
Sure.
I was going to buy stock in the companies that made the 3D glasses for TVs. Because I'm like, this is absolutely the next wave of TV.
Yeah, I never thought of that because nobody wants to sit at home nobody wants to sit at home putting things on their face like that.
Well, here's the real deal. As also a person who wears spectacles on their face.
Yep, I know where you're going.
Never ever been in a situation where I was able to wear sunglasses or 3D glasses and wear eyeglasses at the same time.
Yeah. Well, I try it when I go to the theater. I also wear glasses. So when I go to the theater, it's just like, well, do I take my glasses off? Do I put these on over my glasses? And when I put them on over my glasses, it creates this weird glare effect when there's like lots of things going on. So it's just like, it's almost like my eyes get confused. So
I find the
really
under
weird.
The glasses works better. Like if you go to Universal Studios or MGM or something, if you're on Honey, I Shrunk the Kids, the ride or whatever.
Yeah.
Like I find underneath works better, but still it's just very uncomfortable to wear and stuff like that. But
totes my goats.
Yeah, a little technology for you.
Yep.
You want to talk about Monday Night Raw?
Yeah, let's do it.
So
speaking of technology,
let me rant a little bit here.
Okay.
Quick rant. How sick am I in watching a multi-person match? And I get that it takes time to do it and all that kind of stuff, but still, watching a multi-person match and everyone enters the ring at the commercial, but they save like one person to come out at the end when TV's live again. And it's Braun Strowman wins the Battle Royal.
And that's the guy who came out.
And it's the guy who came out. Could they not do things like that? I mean, I understand because he's going to be final two. And therefore, Sami Zayn is going to be final two as well. So it just eliminates all the other aspects of the match. And granted, maybe when Darren Young won that Intercontinental #1 Contender Battle Royal, like he didn't have an entrance on the way to the ring, and I'd have to go see. Maybe like no one had an entrance that night, and they were just all in the ring ready. And
then Baron Corbin too. That's the most notable standout that same thing happened where he was just part of the job squad, and they just happened to catch him on the way to the ring. They're like, oh, there's Baron Corbin from NXT, and then he wins the Andre.
Oh, you mean the Andre the Giant Memorial Battle Royal? Yeah. More times than not, though, that the people they feature, and NXT is guilty of this too. It's like let's have a 20-man battle royal. Let's spotlight 4 people.
And those are the last 4 in the ring.
not the last 4 in the ring, so to speak.
But still, it's one of those guys.
Yeah. So like it was Carmella. Carmella eliminated whoever. Eva Marie, when Eva Marie eliminated Peyton Royce and Jessie McKay or Billy Kay. And then, Carmella was one of the 4 to the ring. And then Apollo Crews wins the Battle Royal. He was one of the 4 to the ring that was announced that night as well. That the time they did. I can't stand that. I mean, just have everyone in the ring ready to go, or at least like give them the quick play the Total Divas song and have everyone walk to the ring at one time.
Yeah, let them be on top of the world.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
As I picked popcorn out of my teeth because
okay.
I was waiting for you to say more, but then I
was going to say more.
Was named the song.
No, I
was just like,
yeah,
it was kind of up there too, like in the back.
Oh man, that sucks. Like on your molar and stuff.
You ever have it under your tongue, and you're like spending like 3 hours trying to pry it out?
Well, I don't want to get too in depth on that because I have a weird. Okay, yeah, I'm gonna stop. I'll explain later. It's strange.
Yeah, he's got a weird.
I have a strange mouth. I have
hashtag under tongue.
Hashtag cavernous undertongue.
Hashtag milk. I don't forget how.
No, don't do it. I'm not censoring this week. Don't do it.
Are we Are we still on this whole Brian Kendrick versus T.J. Perkins thing?
I don't know. Are we? Because now TJ won because of the DQ or count out.
So you know there's going to be another match.
Well, I mean, as long as TJ didn't break his neck on that spot, that was pretty ugly. So I think he just missed the rope on the way down. He didn't get the rope to stabilize himself for the turn, so he just took it all on his shoulders. At least he took it on his shoulders, not directly on his head. So
yeah, kinda.
It was saved as much as much as it could be. It seemed so.
The I wanted to just mention the fact, quick highlight here. The Enzo Amore versus Luke Gallows trick or street fight was pretty fun.
It was fun. I mean,
it was fun.
It's
stupid,
the stupid 50-50 garbage, but it was still fun.
It was it was a gimmicky holiday spot, and you had a pie and you had a pumpkin, and it was pretty fun. A table too.
Yeah,
it was.
Yeah, there was even a table spot. That was pretty funny.
Are we gonna no sell Hell in the Cell? No sell Hell in the Cell.
Well, I mean, you went straight to Raw, so I was just like, okay.
Yeah, because I forgot totally about Hell in the Cell. Duke, what are your impressions about Hell in the Cell?
Well, it was a really good pay-per-view. It wasn't great.
Eating our words because we thought it was going to be utter trash.
Yeah, and
we're not even going to watch it. Kind of trash is, I think, what you said.
Yeah, I was pretty close, and then it's just like, well, I don't even want to talk about this.
Every time I ask you a question, I don't even want to talk about it. Can we move on? I think that was your reaction.
I don't know that I was that bad.
I don't want to talk about it.
I don't think I was that bad, but
it was.
I was pretty bad.
For the most part, I really was sour on the 3 cell matches and the women's match and being in the cell and feeling like I already talked myself into feeling it had no importance. Like they really weren't going to do anything special that was going to necessitate the cell. But all 3 cell matches were pretty solid.
They were solid. I do want to point something out though, and this is kind of what people were saying going in, and what plenty of people have said going out. I can think of a single spot in all 3 of those matches that the cage was actually part of the spot. A single spot.
Just one?
One single spot.
Well, Rusev and Roman early on in that match did a few things around the ring, into the cage, into the cage, into the cage, into the cage.
But I mean, that's being thrown into something. You know what I'm saying? I'm saying it didn't have to be the cage for them to be thrown into something. The only thing I can think of that was absolutely dependent from a physics standpoint, the only thing I can think of from a physics standpoint that was absolutely dependent upon something being around the ring was the Owens table spot. That's it. Because the table had to be propped against something.
Charlotte pulled Sasha off the cage and threw her through the German announce table.
She could have pulled her off the side of the ring and done the exact same thing.
Well, I mean, they could have done the table spot off of something else as well. You can hit somebody's head in a turnbuckle, but it could have been the announce table. It could have been a knee. You substitute.
What I'm saying is, it was something. It was dependent upon something being wrapped around the ring itself, and no other spot required that. So what I'm getting at is the cage, and they could have still found some creative way of pulling that off otherwise in a no DQ match. Maybe they used the staging or something like that. So yeah, you're right. There still could have been a way to pull off that spot, the spot I was talking about otherwise. What I'm getting at though is the cage was unnecessary. There was no blood. There was no getting on top of the cage. There was no legitimate jumping off the side of the cage.
Well, I'm glad there was no on top of the cage.
I get it. I'm not in disagreement with you, but I guess it goes to the point of, in a PG environment and in an environment where people are going at such a pace that they can injure themselves without having to do something extremely dangerous, they just wear and tear themselves into injury a lot of times. In the type of environment that WWE exists in and wants to exist in these days, Hell in a Cell as an event and as a match doesn't need to exist anymore. Or as an event definitely doesn't need to exist, but as a match needs to be reserved for something unbelievably special that is really this is the end all be all of this matchup, as opposed to it's just a gimmick. That's all I'm saying.
In the PG environment, the use of the cage in the 3 matches was perfectly done for the PG label, non-blood, non-color kind of environment we have going nowadays. Rusev and Roman battled into the cage, throwing each other into the cage, throwing them off the cage. Sasha climbed the cage, and Charlotte. Well, they both climbed the cage and had a little bit of a standoff, and then Charlotte pulled her off the cage to throw her into the German announce table. And Owens and Seth used the cage as well. And let's not forget the whole fire extinguisher spot. Referee needs to leave for medical attention. Door is open. Jericho runs himself through the cage and locks the door. That's part of the cage as well, locking himself in. So that was also something to take into consideration of the use of the cage. I thought it was pretty well done. And I'll even say this. I said it to you. We were kind of tweeting back and forth live when we were watching it. Roman Reigns versus Rusev. I think in an era back where like Piper versus Valentine, dog collar match where, with blood and stuff like that. If this was in that kind of era and both of them were bleeding, I think this is like one of those classic violent matches you would see. It was the only thing was missing was the real blood, not the scraps and scrapes from the cage on the shoulder blades and stuff like that. I thought that match pretty much stole the show. Well, I mean, the women's match I stole the show, but I think Rusev versus Roman Reigns was a lot better than I was going to give it credit for.
I think all 3 matches were. Don't get me wrong. I think all 3 matches were great, and they were main event quality matches. Triple main event. Well, they were actually main event quality matches, and I don't disagree. And this isn't me backpedaling. I don't disagree that they did it. They used the cage within a PG world properly. All I'm saying is, Hell in a Cell. How about this? The cell is unnecessary. Like, you could have done everything they did within the confines of just a regular cage match, because no one was on top of it. No one. Yeah, I mean. Well, there you could have had a cage match with barbed wire on top of it where no one can climb out.
Well, that's a little silly because I mean, there's barbed wire, and now you're not using the barbed wire, so that makes it more ridiculous. The whole like not necessary stuff. I listen. They had an area around ringside to work with, so they didn't have to be. They had the steps involved, where if you have a regular closed cage, you can't have the steps involved.
Fair enough.
You had the stair spots in the end of the match with Roman Reigns and Rusev involved the stairs in the ring.
Yep. Fair enough.
Close that off. You can't have the steps and stuff like that.
Again, within PG, it worked, and you're right that they used a lot of things that you probably wouldn't be able to use in any other type of match. I don't know. I don't know. I just still think at least Hell in a Cell as an event is dumb. In my opinion.
I will 100% agree with that because, again, as we said last week, if you have Hell in a Cell as an event, the cell is dictated by whoever the feud is at the time, whatever the matchup is at the time, and it's not dictated by the feud needing something so violent.
Oh, right. Yeah, exactly. You're doing it because it's October.
You're doing it because it's October.
Not because
whereas Royal Rumble,
Survivor
Series, and Money in the Bank, whatever, those are event matches. It doesn't matter who the top of the card is, what the main event match is. The specials are dictating that type of match, where the specials dictating that type of match, but that type of match it's dictating should have been reserved for like the most brutal of feuds or can't decide things. So
it should be an angle within, or it should be a story within the angle, or an angle within the story. However,
it's kind of like Elimination Chamber. Like, how stupid was it to have, and it's coming back in February as well.
Yeah.
But how stupid is it to have Elimination Chamber in between Royal Rumble and WrestleMania, where it's one guy, the champion, fighting 5 other guys in like that brutal structure?
Yeah.
Well, it's at a champion's disadvantage. So why would he ever accept that match? You know what I mean? It's like
Yeah. Why would he put himself in that position? Like
like the
it.
Elimination Chamber should be a number one contenders match, not for the championship.
Yeah. Well, and how about that's exactly what it should be. You're right. And how about well, hang on. And in the structure that we're in now, where we have the dueling brands, it totally makes sense because you can have someone win the Royal Rumble to go for one of the championships, and someone win Elimination Chamber to
Except for the fact Elimination Chamber is Raw exclusive.
Yeah, no, I'm just saying. I'm saying within the confines of how things exist now, you could do it that way, but they probably won't. Is what I'm saying.
I mean, if you do it that way, then you're guaranteeing that whoever wins the Royal Rumble is
from
of
SmackDown.
one brand.
Yeah,
than the other.
You're right.
I mean,
Yeah, you're right.
Actually, I can't even tell who brand designation is to be determined because as of right now, they have not added a second pay-per-view to the 2017 lineup. They've just added a March pay-per-view, Fastlane. Well, we knew it was Fastlane, but Fastlane was February last year. So they added Elimination Chamber back to February and bumped Fastlane to March, being the first March pay-per-view ever for WWE, I believe I read. Because first non-WrestleMania March pay-per-view.
Oh, I was about to say, because WrestleMania has fallen in March before.
Yeah, first ever non-March WrestleMania pay-per-view, I think, in the company's history.
Wow.
So they used to go February to April, and I think last year, early February was Fastlane, late February was Roadblock, right?
I think you're right. Yeah, because it was only a couple weeks out.
Oh, I have it right here. It's on the same page. Actually, Roadblock was March 12th, but that wasn't the pay-per-view. That was a live event special.
Right.
So if you want to throw that asterisk on it.
Yeah.
But yeah, brand designation is to be determined, and they haven't even listed, other than the ones that they're doing this year, late in the year, they haven't, oh no, I'm actually not far down. Yeah, they haven't added the early new pay-per-views yet.
Gotcha.
They've only kept the late pay-per-views in 2017 consistent with what we have now.
Have they replaced Hell in a Cell next year yet?
Hell in a Cell, October 2017. So I don't know what day of the week October ? Well, it's got to be a Sunday.
Just go away, Hell in a Cell, please. There's
this
other
is, this
things.
Is,
Be King of the Ring. King of the Ring. Do King of the Ring. Do King of the Ring.
No,
King of the Ring.
No, War
and
Games.
do Queen of the Ring.
War Games, Matt. Do we really need a male and female version of everything? That's something I want to talk about.
Apparently we do.
They're going to headline WrestleMania. You know this, right?
I'm sure it's happening, yes.
Okay.
Yeah. And I'm fine with it, but they need to learn how to actually build that story as opposed to we're women and so we want it and we want to make history and Mick, please come in and scream a lot. Thank you. That was pretty much the build for Hell in a Cell. Although Mick did bring it around right at the end, but it was just, that build didn't make any sense. So.
That promo was a lot better in the post-production splicing in the footage of him in the cell.
Yes.
Than it was live that day. Because of the crowd, and two, because the footage actually gave it that much more importance to his words.
Right. And that should have been like 3 weeks before, not the go home. That should have been weeks before, and you should have been slowly splicing that stuff in as other things happened.
Because 2 weeks before, he was all like, hey, they want to do this. Let's do this. And now all of a sudden it's serious time.
Yeah.
It's serious Big Daddy.
But speaking of that match, I will say that Roman and Rusev were extreme. Okay. Let me back up to Roman and Rusev real quick, and then I'm going to let you take the wheel and guide us wherever you want to go to. And then we'll try to move on from Hell in a Cell and Raw and do other stuff.
Yeah, I think there's only one more thing I want to talk about on Raw. I don't know about you. So
okay, yeah, I don't have a lot. But what was it? Oh, so one thing that, and I sent this to you that I wanted to bring this up. One thing with Roman and Rusev, I get why when you hear people in interviews talk about Roman and how no one really wants to say anything bad about him, and it sounds genuine as opposed to it just sounds like it's the company line. one thing that you hear from people a lot of times is, man, from the moment you lock up with this guy, it's just like, okay, he's like, wow, this guy's legit. Like, he's for real. And one thing that I've noticed a lot, and you saw it with Seth Rollins when he came back from injury, and you saw it on Sunday at Hell in a Cell when they were doing the Samoan drop on the stairs. Man, if you're paying attention, Roman protects guys like a lot, and it may sort of expose things every now and then, like it sort of did with Seth when he really protected Seth's leg after the injury. But man, he's very as explosive and as big and as fast as that guy is, and as hard hitting as he is when he needs to be. It's pretty amazing how light to the touch he seems to be if you're paying attention. And I think that's where a lot of people, I think that's where he gets a lot of compliments from people. I'm trying to remember who it was a while back. Oh, it was Balor was on, I think was on Jericho or one of the other podcasts. And he was talking about how, he goes into that match and he and Roman have never, they've maybe shaken hands before the match for the tournament for the Universal Championship. And Balor talked about how, you don't take what everyone says and the negative that everyone says about someone with, you don't just automatically give credibility to outside sources saying things. But when you hear stuff over and over and over and over again, it sort of trains your mind to not necessarily believe it, but sort of lean in that direction. But he said from the moment they locked up, he's like, who is this guy? Can I just like have matches with him like forever? Can I just keep wrestling this guy? So I think it says a lot for him. And I've gotten a kick out of Roman lately, and have even found myself defending him many times, despite his character probably still not necessarily being exactly what it should be. The dude performs in the ring and puts on some great matches. So I'll shut up and I'll let you move us forward.
Well, I want to touch upon that, but when we get back to Raw, last thing I want to say is the women's match. Yeah, the rest of the card was ho hum. I didn't really feel like, kind of like when you watch Royal Rumble, you're there for the Royal Rumble match. I kind of felt like the rest of the card here was kind of lacking. Like it was, a Raw, if even Raw matches, nothing really got settled, nothing really progressed, nothing really, like they were just matches to fill the card. I mean, Brian Kendricks won the Cruiserweight Championship, so there was that. The Brian Kendrick. That's why I stuttered, because I wanted to go back and correct myself. But then, like, did I say Kendricks? Like I meant to say Brian Kendrick.
Did I say Jimi Hendrix?
The fake injury headbutt spot. Okay, it's cool, but how many times do we see fake injury spots? I hate it.
Yep.
Just because of that fact that when you have a legitimate thing like this, where it makes sense for TJ Perkins to be the good boy, be like, oh my God, are you okay? Like, I really cared about you because you've been part of my life, part of my career. And then just getting headbutted. Well, it kind of takes away from that, because we have Bayley doing an injury and so many other people doing injury spots, and just it's all over the place. And it takes away from moments like this.
I still want
Sasha.
I still want someone to come out and be wrapped in kinesio tape, just completely covered in kinesio tape.
I mean, odds are favorite that by 2017 either Bayley or Cesaro will be.
Yeah, sorry, go ahead.
But like the Yeti.
I took away from your point. I apologize.
No, I mean that is basically the point. It's like we're playing up this so much that we're even putting the kinesio tape on people to signify that they are injured. It's the new whole ribs are taped. It's like having that tape on your back or on your shoulder or whatever. Because even Rollins had it on his back last week to sell an injury on Raw. Which
is super dumb, because kinesio tape is supposed to be for joints. I was under the impression. I thought. Maybe I'm wrong. So
yeah,
don't quote me on that.
Like, I never understood it. Like the same thing with like magnetic bands. Like I never understood that either. But I think that was a fad, not really a treatment, or like, it wasn't really protective. It was just like a fad. But yeah, but let's not take away from the Charlotte Flair Sasha Banks match.
Right.
Now we're embracing her last name. let's not take away from the fact that that was the thing. I mean, I don't like saying the word botch, and I've told you this many times. I hate the whole botchamania concept and botch this, botch that, because they're doing things that I can't do. They're working their ass off, and if a leg buckles on a table and the table doesn't break properly, I mean that's not a botch. That's just unfortunate. And I think one of the things at the end of that match, that whole like Charlotte throwing Sasha through the off the table, and then throwing her off the table again, and the table never budging. I think two things went wrong there. I think one, Sasha wasn't able to lift that table up higher to get more of an angle.
Right.
And I think two, she really needed to take that leg down so that it was set up like a pure ramp. Because when she gets thrown onto the table, she's not getting thrown through the table. She's getting thrown like across the table.
And I have a couple things to say on the table.
And she's like 98 pounds as well.
Yeah.
So it's never going to break. I mean, it probably could break, but it was never going to break. And then even so, like getting thrown off the table probably hurt more than it was going to, than if she went through the table. But fans see the table not breaking and they'll boo and whatever. I just hate that part of the match where Charlotte goes through the table and the table didn't shatter into 6 million pieces and the fans just start booing. Well, she just took a bump that no woman has taken before, and you're going to boo? Like, that's the part of wrestling I hate. The whole, like, you effed up botch part of it. Mistakes happen. I mean, it's not like Mick Foley got hit in the back of the head with a styrofoam cup and then sold it and, threw himself over the rope in a battle royal, because that happened. But
right.
It was, an unfortunate third-party piece of equipment that then, tables are not breakaway. Sorry. Yeah. But if you put enough force into them, like normally happens, they'll break. So,
yeah, I heard a couple of things, and something that I sort of came away from that with was they were obviously extremely inexperienced with tables in general, because if you look at the way Seth and Kevin set up tables, and you look at the way the ladies did it and they tried to do it almost like on the fly and quickly and didn't want to take too much time to do it, whereas the guys belabored the point of putting the locks down on the joint and everything like that. And that's straight up an experience thing. And
they've been going through tables for 16 years. The girls
exactly.
3.5 days.
Well, I mean, they've seen it. They've seen it. And I don't know, but I would venture to guess that they didn't touch a table like in that capacity. They didn't touch a table before the match. They had maybe looked at a table. They had maybe, or they had just, watched matches where people would use tables, but they had not looked at the actual mechanics of a table. And I know people. So, okay. Here we go, Larry. This is where we talk about how old we are. I'm 37 years old. Okay?
Jesus, man.
I know. You're older than me. I'm 37 years old, and I have set up tables a lot in my life. I know people who are my age or older, and if we're at a banquet hall or we're doing something...
staring at the bottom of it like, what am I supposed to do?
Exactly. Like, yeah. I know people who have
these legs go back down?
Yeah, exactly. Who have never set up a table in their lives. And I'm not saying these girls are that, but I am going to say it's possible. And
I'm sure they got a little bit of a how-to beforehand, but it's not like they've done it for 16 years.
Right.
And,
no experience.
Charlotte didn't look like she locked the leg of that one side of the table before she went through it. And Sasha didn't create more of an angle on that table before she got thrown through it.
Yeah.
So it's unfortunate, but the fact is, they got thrown through into a table regardless.
Yeah, no, they were the spots were fine enough, and the ending was a little rushed, and that probably hurt it because people were like, "What just happened?" And they were still sort of out of it from that first spot. But
good for them on that second throw redo, though. If she was supposed to go through the table the first time and she didn't, and then Charlotte picked her up, like I gotta feel like that was a possible audible beforehand because Sasha's like 110 pounds.
Okay, so exactly. So the inexperienced thing, that's something that kind of occurred to me. Something I heard that or a couple of things that I heard. One was from Don Callis. What was he talking about? Oh, he was talking about what you were saying with Sasha being so light. He said someone probably should have told them that you can't just expect the table to break when you're throwing someone light through. That's why anytime you had, and this is me expounding on what he said, when you had like Spike Dudley going through a table, dude's 110 pounds or whatever he was, right?
Someone would powerbomb him and take
someone would powerbomb him, so there's more weight going through the table. And that's one thing that he said was, a lot of times that's what you have to, that's whether it's improvisation or whatever, what you have to do is you need to help make the table break instead of just depending on this tiny person to pull it off. And that was a good point. Another thing I saw, and I haven't gone back to check it. I meant to do it before we recorded tonight, but someone said at one point, it was after the chair spot, which was really cool, by the way. I like that, where Sasha grabbed the chair and she beat her way out of the figure eight. Yeah. That was a cool spot. And it almost got the crowd fully back in, but then everything just was sped up so much after that I think just people didn't have time to get back on the match. But when she did that, when they started getting up, someone thought they saw Charlotte say, "I can't." And after all the buildup from people outside of this match, like Ric Flair and other people talking about, there's some big stuff planned, it almost seems like their finish was, or not necessarily. I think the finish was always supposed to be that table spot into the natural selection. But it seems like maybe Charlotte was actually supposed to do something like one of her crazy moonsaults. And it didn't happen. And so they had to sort of improvise what they were doing between there and the finish. And maybe that's why it kind of got a little flat after that for a while.
It could be. I mean, so. I feel like if that were to happen, we would, and maybe it's still too early too. We would have gotten one of those Meltzers, what was supposed to happen at Hell in a Cell, kind of news items.
But he makes up stuff as much as we do.
Hey, listen, I mean, it doesn't have to necessarily come from him, but you see it all the time.
No, I get what you're saying.
Initial plans for world title before brand split was AJ Styles to win it, stuff like that.
Was Ryback to squash AJ Styles at WrestleMania. Yeah,
exactly. So there was stuff like, there's those things everywhere. I didn't hear anything. Doesn't mean that it necessarily wasn't true. I didn't hear Charlotte say that, but I did hear Charlotte talking, and I told you this. Like, anytime she's ever talked before in the match, like during a match, at her opponent directly, and most of the time it's Sasha. That's like we're ready to wrap up. This match is going to be over in like 5 minutes.
We're going home. Yeah,
because that's when the taunting starts. It's like, okay, last move, taunt, either win or lose. Like, that's kind of like how the whole thing been. I really thought the match was good.
I actually did. I thought everyone in all the cell matches worked their butts off. I mean, just unbelievable effort. And
in the matches, I thought were going to be snooze fests and, how can you have a PG era Hell in a Cell match? Well, I kind of took an I'm 39 years old approach to it. Like, I'm not going to argue the Yankees are better than Mets anymore because I'm 39 years old. I'm not 18.
Yeah.
So I'll let the records speak for it. And, if anybody wants to talk about how much the Mets are better, I'll just be like, okay, cool. But I'm kind of taking that approach with this pay-per-view because I'm just like, I'm not going to like these cell matches if I keep talking about them.
Sure.
But if I just sit down and just be like, all right, let me just watch the match. Oh, you know what? That match really wasn't that bad. Roman Reigns, Rusev, I was really impressed with.
Yeah.
Owens, Rollins with the whole Jericho stuff. I really love that as well. And then, Sasha and Charlotte did things I didn't think they were going to do.
Yeah.
And so I'm just like, okay, I'm pleased overall.
Sure.
Cesaro and Sheamus winning by disqualification, New Day being New Day, the whole, cheat to win, whatever you want to call it. I'm over that.
I'm over it to an extent, but I kind of like how they pulled it off this time in that the heel, the true, bona fide heel of that match, Sheamus, was the one who initially tried to cheat.
Right.
And then the ref didn't actually catch him. So, essentially, well, he didn't connect with it, but he effectively cheated because he didn't get caught.
Yeah.
So he was still the true heel, but then the baby faces, of course, they cheat and get
Just
DQ'd
my
and they don't
mindset
lose it.
is on these kind of matches on a pay-per-view. Like, can we just have definitive
Can we
winners
finish?
and move on?
Can we have a
Yeah,
finish?
I mean,
Yeah.
like, because now we're going to do more Sheamus, Cesaro, New Day stuff as stemming from this. We're already doing more Gallows and Anderson, Enzo, Big Cass stuff stemming from this. Bailey's moving on, but Dana Brooke is kind of in that whole, like, inside of Nia Jax's ear stuff. So that's like kind of continuing by extension as well. I mean, and Kendrick and Perkins, they had a title change, but then there's still something, So the only thing that really is different is maybe Roman Reigns is going to move on from Rusev because it looks like Roman Reigns is kind of putting his face into, Owens' territory.
And I don't mind that.
We talked about this. Actually, you do mind that because 3 weeks ago we talked about it.
I didn't, but I mean, I did mind it. After that cell match, I don't.
What are they? Well, it's segmented rosters, and it's the whole thing I keep talking about. Is you only have a few people in the tier of main eventer. So if not Rollins again, then who? Roman Reigns, because it doesn't make sense for anybody else.
Yeah.
Now
because they won't. They just won't build. I mean, okay, there's Owens and there's Balor, and Balor got injured, unfortunately. So they were planning to build a new star. So kudos for that. But can we get someone slotted in somewhere that you can actually start building up?
There's a difference between slotting them in and a difference between like fans recognizing it as being legitimate. So there's the whole. I mean, they can
a la
throw
Roman
Zayn
Reigns, like you said. Yeah.
What's that?
A la Roman Reigns, which is what
Roman...
what I'm saying is, which is why people still kick against Roman Reigns no matter what he does, because before he was really ready, he was quote unquote. I'm not even going to say what everyone always says.
It's the same fans that were cheering for him on the Shield day in and day out, and now the dude's getting a main event spot, and they're just like, I don't want to see this. Well, you wanted to see a main event when he was part of the Shield. You wanted to see those guys do it every single week, hold all the titles. But now he's doing it by himself. It's a little contradictory. I think it's the fact that how they set him up to do it. The whole, like...
I still think so much of it...
path of being an underdog when he's like 82 feet tall and 300 pounds and a monster.
I still think most of it stems from the shoot interview, but we don't have to get into that right now.
Yeah. I'd like to see a percentage of people that actually heard that compared to like the percentage of people that watch the show.
Most people who I see say negative stuff always.
But you're also
bring up the No. I'm talking about anywhere
where the podcast exists as well.
Okay.
But
we'll move on.
You're not talking to the family of 5 that are sitting down next to you in the Alamo Dome. I mean the Georgia Dome. Or what I mean to say is the Omni, but
because that exists,
it doesn't exist anymore. Oh, it's the
Phillips Arena.
Yeah. The Phillips Arena. Yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah. The same building? No, the Omni's gone.
I don't know if it's gone, but I don't know what it's used.
What about Fulton
anymore.
County Stadium? Is that still around?
No, it's very much gone.
Okay.
Like legitimately gone.
Yeah, I knew Turner Field was a whole new place. I didn't know Phillips Arena was different than the Omni, though.
Yeah, it definitely is. Yep.
Okay, so moving on to Raw here.
Yep.
I kind of like we talked on most of this. I kind of like the Goldberg Heyman confrontation, and I had this half typed to you on Twitter before I just came to my senses and undid it, and then therefore it was true. If Lesnar was there, I had the chills of all chills that I've never experienced before since like the Monday Night War era. If Lesnar was there and Goldberg and Lesnar were going to go face to face, not wrestle, but just go face to face that night with that setup, it was electric. But then I soon realized, I'm like, he's not here. And then Paul Heyman started laughing thereafter. And I'm like, all right. And I hit backspace on what I typed to you. Because that setup, and if Lesnar was there, man, Raw did something. It was magical. But then again, it was a ruse. And, I would say it pissed people off, but it intentionally pissed people off. So they did their job. It wasn't like it wasn't anything that was bad. But man, what about you? If Lesnar was there and him and Goldberg actually went face to face, would it have been something that, like, you know, would have gave you the feels that you haven't felt in a long time?
Oh yeah, I mean, I was
Judging by the
sitting there.
hesitation, it's no.
I was no. Am I muted?
Or he's sneezing, and
I'm muted. I'm muted. Sorry. I apparently copy pasted something, and I've made the brilliant decision to use Control as my mute toggle. So, anyway, oh no, I was moving something around my keyboard, and I hit the button inadvertently. I remember what I did now. Okay.
So the question.
So yeah, no, I heard the question.
Okay.
And I said yes. I was on board with you, and I was even like, they won't do it, but man, this would be like, just do the fight now and have Brock come out and win. And then Goldberg says, you know what? No, we're still having our match at Survivor Series.
We're 1-1 now in Korea.
Yeah, we're 1-1.
Third match.
Yeah, and have the rubber match. Like, set up the rubber match. And you want people tuning into Raw in that first, well, the first hour is never their problem. It's always the last, but the third hour. But man, that would have been a spike. They're fighting now. They're fighting now. They're fighting now. I mean, the word would have gotten out.
It was like Goldberg and Hogan fighting now on Nitro, except we didn't have to deal with the movie surrounding the match in and out of commercials, whatever movie that was. It was some Hogan Thunder in Paradise. I forget what the movie was, but they extended Nitro that night with Hogan versus Goldberg. And then, like, in between commercials of the movie, they'd have like part of the match. But we kind of had that like moment. It was like, wow, Raw's going to do something. Like, you know, Orton turned on SmackDown a couple weeks ago, probably going to be like the biggest ruse of all ruses and mean nothing in the end. But they did something.
Yeah.
Now Raw's going to do so. Oh, no, they're not.
No,
they're going to do the same crap they always do. And Lesnar's not going to be there. And, you know, so.
Yeah, Heyman was back there like, work.
Which was still good because Heyman playing to the crowd. I mean, listen, if that was Teddy Long or Bob Backlund or anybody else who's been a mouthpiece or with a guy with a microphone, like, that doesn't work. With Heyman, it works. Like, fans were more on board with it.
Heyman commits. He commits to the lie.
But then the crowd, like, in their disapproval of Lesnar not being there, is kind of like, oh yeah, Heyman, kind of under the breath. It's like, oh yeah, Heyman got us. We're not going to be totally pissed off about this.
Got us. Yep.
You know. So all right. So I mean, that was basically it on Raw. I like the whole Nia Jax coming down to the ring and confronting Bayley and getting the win.
I liked it. Here's what I didn't like about that segment: the production team constantly leaving Charlotte hanging. Charlotte calling for Bayley, and she has to like stall for time because she's just staring at the ramp waiting for the music to hit.
You think that was production? I mean, it was kind of like, well, you know, Bayley's not standing, like, realistically, if I'm going to call you out, you're not standing by the curtain. You're kind of back in the locker room somewhere. You got to have time to come out.
Larry.
So, like, yeah.
No.
Why not? I didn't think it was that bad of a deal. It wasn't that long.
Oh, okay. It wasn't that bad. If it was just that time. Then the same thing, that's what I was getting at. Then the same thing happened with Nia Jax, where she's just like, because this is a plan Charlotte had, right? Was to bait Bayley out and then say, you're facing Nia Jax. And she says, and you're going to face this woman, or whatever she said.
Pause for dramatic effect, and then the music plays. Right.
No.
Dramatic effect.
It was awkward, and it wasn't her fault.
But it wasn't Rich Swann coming out with Drew Gulak's name on the Titantron.
And way to go, because that was Cedric Alexander.
I had to pull a name
Racist.
out.
Racist.
No, I had to pull a name out that I remember Drew Gulak's name being on the Titantron when somebody else came out.
You mean Apollo Creed?
Apollo Crews. No, Apollo Crews is Terry Crews.
Oh, okay.
That's how we got his name.
Got it.
Yeah. It was Cedric Alexander because I was pissed about that because I like Cedric Alexander.
Well, and it was just funny because it was his music, but they played the. Yeah. It's like I always
that's figured Drew Gulak, and I'm like, what something's not right. And then Cedric comes out with his stupid little Leo symbol tight shorts, and I'm like, all right, well, okay.
I
So
always thought,
so there is something to be said about, like, I'm giving you a little bit of rib saying dramatic,
right,
dramatic pause.
right.
But there was something to be said about production being off
Production
that
was a
night.
little off on
Yeah, yeah.
Monday. Yeah. But I will say it was surprising to me that people's music is not baked into their their graphics. Like that's not connected. That those are separate entities. That was really surprising to me, honestly. Like
Yeah,
that's kind of odd. That's an odd
weird. I
choice.
thought they had pre-programmed lights, music, and audio.
Yeah, it seems like that would all be baked into one thing. But
Yeah, but I think too much can go wrong because you want that Titantron to play sometimes without the music. I mean, you can always turn the volume down, but then if you bring it back up, it's in the middle of the song instead of recuing the song and stuff like that. So I guess they have to keep it separate for situations like that.
yeah, maybe. Yeah.
Where thing plays, the music plays, but the guy gets attacked in the ring and they turn the music off real quick.
Yeah, maybe.
And then he gets back the upper hand and then he leaves and then but the whole time the Titantron's playing in the background. Yeah, probably better situation if it's not all. But I'd be surprised too. I was surprised too that it was like, they got the music right, but the thing wrong. What the hell happened there? But
yeah, it was weird.
Whatever with that. Sheamus turning on Cesaro in the Battle Royal was pretty funny.
I liked it.
I really loved it because they're working so well as a team. Then all of a sudden, kick, turn, reversal, thrown out.
Well, I mean, they're like fist bumping. They're like, you know what? We can do this. We got this. No.
That was really good. But then Braun Strowman winning. He qualifies for the 5-on-5 Survivor Series elimination match. But now Sami Zayn has been added as the 5th person to that team.
Has he?
So, yeah.
Oh, man. I thought for sure it was going to be Rollins.
So we're not getting the whole, and I may be wrong on this. I'm sorry. I'm gonna double check as you next time you take your turn to talk about something. But it's Survivor Series is unique, and we'll talk a little bit about it after we brush by SmackDown because things are setting up now. Now we can actually talk about it.
Yep.
It's interesting because I said, like, is it really going to be Raw versus SmackDown, or is it going to be like the losers of whatever Raw versus SmackDown match there is? It's going to be because of infighting, and they set the stage for this on the men's side of Raw with Braun and Sami Zayn and Jericho not being on the team. They set the stage with it on SmackDown with Natalya being the coach, and then like it feels like the tag team match is like the deciding factor, even though it's probably not going to be the last of the matches being shown on that night. It's odd how it's getting set up. And in fact, they're booking and they made it known on SmackDown, and I'll talk about that when it happens. But they're also setting up their December pay-per-views at the same time.
Right.
So they're setting up main event matches on SmackDown and stuff like that. So it's kind of odd. It's kind of odd booking and stuff like that. But
I hate to take this away from you, but WWE.com still does not have that last person for Raw. So I totally thought it was going to be Rollins. Personally.
Apparently, this was accidentally posted on WWE.com. Does it mean Sami Zayn is the 5th member of Survivor Series?
Oh, was it like an image?
Yeah, I'm going to send it over in Discord right now. Let's take a look at SmackDown here this week.
Yeah, let's do it.
So, it was a pretty good show. I mean, my God, James Ellsworth, out of all people. Like, this is the guy to make me really invested in wrestling.
I know.
Like,
if you were, I want you to imagine something. Imagine a year ago.
All the people.
No.
In this world.
No. Imagine a year ago. I thought you were going to interrupt me again.
No, I was singing it again in my head, but I was
gotcha.
Like, you know what?
A year ago, you're talking to James Ellsworth at what is it? Adrenaline Pro Wrestling. That's the name of his promotion. You're talking to him at Adrenaline Pro Wrestling, and you say, "What if I told you a year from now, you will be chased around an arena by WWE cameras as you are part of their world title story?" Just imagine. What do you think he would do if you said that? If you said, "I'm from the future,
He'd
and
laugh
this
at
is
you.
what's going to happen," I think he would punch you in the face. I think that's what he would do.
Probably twice because he's got 2 hands.
Oh yeah, yeah. And
I closed Discord. Obviously, I didn't.
No, you didn't.
How do I close the damn image? There we go.
Yeah, there you go.
Okay.
But I see it. I see it now. But yeah, we'll see. I always thought it was Tyson Kidd.
Listen, I think they didn't. I don't think they masked who the women were going to be. I think they used the real women's silhouettes and then just like blacked it out.
Yeah, that's what it seems like. But yeah, I mean, yeah, it's great. It's great. And I've seen people who are getting really mad about it, and they're like, this guy doesn't belong on my TV. And it's just like,
I gotta tell you, and I don't think you
understand. I don't think you understand what wrestling is.
This is a situation where I would have been pissed too. Except James Ellsworth doesn't make me mad. Like, I'm invested. But if this was like let's take James Ellsworth out of the equation and say this was Kalisto. And Kalisto was brought in as like the kid brother to Owens' Ambrose's big brother type of relationship. I'd be like, this is the dumbest thing in the world. Like, why Kalisto? Like, of all, and then I'd start naming people on the roster that deserve better. But then you have this guy who's not even part of the company be in this spot, and I'm invested in it. Have you ever been invested, Santana Garrett aside, from somebody coming in from it with a maybe blue pants, but not really to this extent? Somebody coming in from like a non-WWE employee standpoint from a job in a jobber role and ever cared about him? You probably never did.
No.
But now Ellsworth is in this role and has been in that role and has been invited back a few times before this even happened. Like, he was that tag team partner and Miz destroyed him before the match. And now he's involved in he's main eventing SmackDown twice and has been a part of the main event of SmackDown 4 times. 5 times, I guess, if you even consider that one time he was the tag team partner of AJ Styles before he got attacked.
Right.
And it works, and everyone is eating it up. Well, maybe not everybody, but a majority. My dad says to me today, before, he goes, "Man, that finish last night was good, wasn't it?" And I'm like, "What?" And for some reason, I flaked. I'm like, "What? Owens and Jericho?" He's like, "No, the little guy, the guy with the chin." I'm like, "Oh yeah." I'm like, that is probably the greatest thing ever.
That's great.
And it shouldn't be, but it is. And I kind of feel like it's going to be unfortunate when he gets offered a contract and he can't be this like outsider anymore, and he's going to be part of the roster. And then he's just like, eventually going to make his way to losing matches to Baron Corbin and stuff like that. But you can't have this run forever. But man, is he making the most of it, and it's awesome.
Yeah, I think it would be interesting if something happens to make him disappear for a while and then he shows up in the Rumble. I think that would be like where people are, like, maybe even make it like a mystery on SmackDown where occasionally it keeps coming up. Yeah, where is James Ellsworth? Where is he gone?
I think in the Rumble he eliminates. Well, I said he eliminates AJ Styles, but then we're like, well, why would AJ Styles even be in the match? Well,
right.
Maybe Ambrose wins at Roadblock, and AJ's now in the Rumble. I think it'd be awesome.
Roadblock
or Ellsworth
or TLC.
I'm sorry, TLC is their pay-per-view.
Yeah.
I always mix that. I always feel like TLC is always Raw because it's always red and black, the logo.
Yeah.
So I
hope they actually change that. I hope they change it to like blue. I hope they
like blue brand every single time I see the logo, I'm like, oh, that's obviously a Raw pay-per-view. So
that would be a
TLC.
Cool thing to do would be to blue brand it because it has always been red and black. So
yeah, it'd be awesome. And AJ Styles loses the title back to Ambrose, and and Ellsworth eliminates AJ Styles from the match. That'd be
amazing.
So good.
And then, then you have. Yeah. I just still love the poetry of it coming full circle, and Braun coming into the Royal Rumble to eliminate James Ellsworth. I love that idea.
Listen, they would both work for me. Yeah. You always have that combination of this team's bad, but they always have my team's number. Right. It's like that little bit of a triangle. We always beat up on this team. This team always beats up on that team, and that team always beats up on us. Well, Ellsworth always beats up on AJ Styles. Braun always beats up on Ellsworth, kind of deal.
Yeah,
It's
it's like in the late '90s. It was the Colts. It was just like they would win like maybe 2 games a year, but one of the games they won was against the team who later went on to win the Super Bowl.
yeah, yeah, exactly.
Like somehow,
Like
some
the
way.
one or two lost blemish on the record was to that one bad team.
Yeah, to the
They
worst
would be
team in
10
the
and
league.
0 to start the season, play the Colts. The Colts would win. I feel like Denver was that team as well.
Yeah, they were at one point.
Or maybe Denver was the team that was winning like 10, 11 in a row and then would lose to
Somebody
a
that
bad
shouldn't.
team from nowhere. Yeah. Yeah, that'd be really fun. And I don't understand on SmackDown side. We're bringing the Headbangers again. And we're using the Spirit Squad. So we're using two teams that we did not originally have in the draft and the brand extension and stuff like that. And we're leaving the teams behind. The Ascension, the Vaudevillains, the whoever's. There's one more team, Breezango. Like these teams are not even like, and I can understand holding them back for future use and stuff like that, but now there's talk that the Spirit Squad may not be used again. And the Headbangers are like, why are we even having these teams making appearances? Or are they just like more well-known jobbers at this point? And then we're just going to hold off continually burying the Vaudevillains in the Ascension in case something comes up for them.
Yeah, I feel like you just answered the question. It's that everyone's just like, you're just like, these guys show up and they lose. They show up and they lose, and it's the Ascension and the Vaudevillains. Well, I mean, it's hard to complain about that and then complain about these, old school guys coming back and get it and being the jobbers instead. Like it does take those guys. It does take those guys off of like the Ascension and everybody off TV, but they're not losing. So
exactly. I mean, Kurt Hawkins lost in like 10 seconds. I mean, that kind of pissed me off too.
No, that was fantastic.
Did he say I missed the whole Atlantic City stuff. Did he say he was in Atlantic City on the microphone?
Yeah.
Okay.
And I think it's funny that people still don't get that he's done that every single time he came
don't get that, and you know how much I like Kurt Hawkins.
Yeah, they were in San Diego, and he said, "Hello, San Francisco."
Okay.
Yeah, and then wherever they were in Colorado Springs. Hello, Denver.
Okay, that's been totally missed on me.
It's part of his gimmick.
I don't always know where they are. Like, I don't always know where the show originates from because sometimes
they used to make a big deal out of it.
Yeah, they say live from the Manhattan Center. Now they don't really do that. Like they'll kind of mention like, we're in Detroit, like, but somewhere in the middle of the opening segment, if not after the opening segment, next time they come back from commercial. So that's lost on me, but that's pretty funny that they do that. Daniel Bryan and The Miz, man, if they don't have a match,
I know. It's like,
come on. Like,
it's some. I'm not going to use the term, but there's a term that people use when there's a lot of buildup for something, but it never happens. So it's yeah. I mean, to me, it seems like I just keep holding out hope that this is one of those long arcs that Triple H talked about in one of his conference calls, that this is one of those times where they are slow playing this as much as possible. They're making sure Daniel is in the best shape possible to just have maybe one more match, and it like really be one more match, but maybe come in and I don't know. I don't know how they'd set it up, but yeah, if it's electric, it would be electric because Miz is probably the only pure heel in the company and is amazingly proficient at it. And he seems to have garnered a lot of backstage respect over the years, coming from where he came from. And just their chemistry is just between the chemistry and the bringing real life into it in a believable fashion, but still somehow working it into a wrestling story at the same time. I mean, There's no story like it in wrestling, in my opinion. And if they can somehow work that toward a match in some way, where one day Daniel just gets mad and starts unbuttoning his shirt, and people are like, yeah, and everyone cheers it because everyone is going to get into the emotion of it all, but in the back of everyone's mind, they're like, what's going to stop it? What's going to stop it? And then he pulls his pants off and he's got his wrestling tights on. I think I can't imagine how unglued a place would come at that point.
Yeah, so. Unfortunately, I think it's one of those situations where we have to book it and announce it first before we just pull it on people for maximum effect.
Well, I think you have a moment like that first, and it's not a match. And,
okay.
and maybe you even have someone like Shane or somebody come out and say, whoa. As much as I would love to give these people this match tonight, we want to give it to more people. Or I don't know how you spin that right.
Place goes crazy booze then.
Yeah. I don't know how you spin that properly, but I don't know how you spin that properly. Maybe you WCW, we're out of time. Maybe that's what you do. But
yeah, we definitely need stuff like that, except in the day and age where, then we'll be like, well, they have a network. Why can't they switch over to the network for the rest of it? Get off my lawn.
Because the cruiserweights are on.
Last thing I really wanted to talk about on SmackDown, not talk about, but just comment on, is the whole, I'm going to ignore the Randy Orton Wyatt stuff because I think we both know where it's going to lead. And until I see different,
I don't know, though. Glowy eyes, bro. Glowy eyes.
Kind of always under the assumption that Randy Orton is going to swerve Bray Wyatt on some big stage. And until that happens, then we can talk about
Randy
how good it's going to be for the Wyatts to join numbers. Alexa Bliss has a new persona. She's now the Wicked Witch of the West. So she's Freddy Krueger, Wicked Witch of the West, and Harley Quinn. And she's just collecting personas now instead of being something unique.
She's a villain. So. That's what she is, Larry. She is a villain. She is an alpha villain. That's what
she's
she is.
She's a villain in a cute cosplay way, and where they could make her be her own person as a villain instead of taking on Fredericks of Hollywood's sexy costume personas of these other people. You know what I mean?
I'm not disappointed in her like you are.
I'm not disappointed in her. I think she's working out better than I ever thought she would have.
Sure.
But in fact, I thought like Carmella, I feel like is the weakest link on this roster for the women.
But she's doing decent in her role.
But I thought Alexa Bliss was second to the bottom, and I think Alexa Bliss is doing more in her role than is overachieving more than I thought she would. Than Carmella is overachieving more than I thought she would.
Sure,
even though I had them a little bit different. But she's hitting a niche, I guess, a niche or however you want to say it, and it's working pretty well. I think it's funny that like I complained last week about is she Freddy Krueger or is she Harley Quinn, and now she's the Wicked Witch of the West as well. I just thought that was pretty funny. But yeah, I'm looking forward to SmackDown. Is SmackDown live next week in Glasgow, or is it?
It seems like it seems like it can't be, right? Because that would be
like it can't be 5 hours.
That would be what? That would be 3 a.m. that it would start. No, it would be 1 a.m. that it would start for them. Yeah, seems like it can't be.
I don't know, man. I think people would still pack the arena at 1 a.m.
I absolutely, especially in the UK, I absolutely believe.
I'm not going to say they're going to do it in Chicago, Illinois.
Right, but in the UK, absolutely.
And never gets a live show, so.
Yeah, they would absolutely just go insanely bonkers.
Yeah. I lied, because the last thing I did want to talk about was the segment you brought up before with The Miz and Daniel Bryan, or the one I brought up, whatever.
Sure.
Stemming from that, Dolph Ziggler challenged anybody on Raw for his title at Survivor Series, therefore making it like all of a sudden. Therefore, the catchphrase by Mauro Ranallo after it. It's the only time of the year Raw takes on SmackDown. That's the first time they said that this pay-per-view was going to be Raw versus SmackDown all matches. to me, I thought it was always going to be just the Survivor Series matches and then add on matches from unique for the brands on top of that if they want to do a cruiserweight title match or whatever.
Yeah, but I hope they do stick with that, and it's all red versus blue. I
Well,
really hope that's what it is.
now Ziggler is issuing an open challenge.
Yep.
Miz is getting left to the side,
which is great.
Jericho got left to the side as well. I wonder if we're going to get Jericho and the Miz versus like two people, like a tag team, mixed brand tag team match. Jericho and the Miz versus Corbin and Corbin's on the Survivor Series team, right?
Yes, he is.
Because I was just stemming from the feud, the feud they're starting on Twitter. I don't know, two other people that are Cesaro and Sheamus. I don't know, but that'd be pretty cool. I would think the two guys that are snubbed joining forces to fight two other people that maybe have a bone to pick as well. I don't know.
And I mean, they've got another week to have those other two people.
Just a week? When is Survivor Series?
Survivor Series is the 20th. So what? Okay. 2 weeks?
3 weeks. 3 weeks from Sunday. From the past Sunday. 3 weeks after Hell in Cell.
Yeah, so there's 1, 2. So there's two of each show between now and then. However, you have the UK tour next week. So that
but they still have TV. So
I know, but that kind of throws some things off. I don't know. I don't know. We'll see. But there's I guess, but that just is more to my point that you still have time to establish two more guys.
That's like
to do what you said, or maybe even two ladies,
or maybe it never even happens.
Or too.
I'm just saying that maybe it's going to be Jericho versus Miz.
I will say
the winner gets a title shot.
Speaking of Miz, it was I thought it was interesting that Renee got so much heat on talking smack for wearing red, and Miz and Maurice were all red. So that's pretty funny. I can't believe they didn't bring that up, but I thought for sure that was going to work its way into that promo, and maybe it was supposed to, and they rolled with their familiarity and made magic again. So NXT.
Absolutely. How about this? Here's I have two questions for you, and I don't know because I'm not really in the know, and I like to keep myself in the dark about this. Was the Shane Thorne versus Roderick Strong match a redo? And they originally had Strong and Aries winning, but then Aries got the injury, so they did a redo TV taping, quote unquote, at the house show.
I don't know. I actually don't know that because I've been staying away from the Dusty spoilers because people are trying to spoil everything on it.
Yeah, because it's the matches for next week to taped as well. I think they're taped up to the finals, right?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure everything's
taped. I don't want to know. I wanted to search. I mean, to me, it seemed like odd that they had that house show involved.
So quickly.
But, the house show involved, and it's like, well, Aries, they're never really that quick with stuff. Even if it's taped, it's still taped behind the events of the weekend. But they were very quick with that. But then they also did the Authors of Pain and Rich Swann, No Way Jose was also there as well, I believe. So it could have been that they just scheduled those tapings for that show. Because last year they had some of the matches away from Full Sail as well. But they didn't
televise all of them last year, though.
No, they showed highlights of them instead of televising them like
that was when the Vaudevillains lost to the Revival.
Yeah, that was
before they were the Revival.
Yeah, and I think the Hype Bros won or lost at a. I
believe they lost at one of those shows too. Yeah,
to American Alpha, I believe.
That sounds right.
Yeah, so I took that as odd, but then they had that second match there too, and I'm like, you know what? Maybe it was just scheduled to be at that taping all along, and then they just they went with it. But I'm like, man, that would be something if they taped this match at Full Sail the same day they taped DIY Revival, Insanity versus Perkins and Ibushi, and then they just did the full redo over the weekend to just change the result. I kind of feel like I'm going to read that if it happened, or I may have read it already if it happened, but that's interesting. Here's the second question. Who is the return? and speculate if you don't know. Tell me if you
I
do know
don't
and don't say anything.
I don't actually know. I
Okay.
suspect because they were making it kind of heroic. Um,
With the crab pop when the lights went out, kind of stuff.
yeah.
Okay.
I suspect this is a gimmick shift for a returning. Um, holy crap!
I can't even. I don't even know who's been off TV that long to
His name just
return.
left me. The Drifter,
Okay.
Samson, Elias Samson. I suspect this is a. They're going to try to pitch him as more of a babyface now because they need baby faces.
Do you know who's the most realistic name that came to my mind? That still it would like. Let's just say this flat out. Like this won't happen. But you know what the best idea in my mind was?
Oh, EC3.
Well, okay, after the fact, it was EC3, but I, CJ Parker. I don't like. I couldn't even tell. Like I was just like, who hasn't been around NXT?
It kind of had that rock star feel to it, and that's what made me think of.
Yeah, I'm like,
Elias
who the
Samson.
hell? Like, who the hell hasn't been around NXT this long for there to be a return? And I'm like, well, okay, well, I don't know. Parker's name came to my mind, but he's New Japan Pro Wrestling, so forget about him. Then I'm like EC3 Galloway. I'm like, no, never. Like even if like they're out of their contract in TNA, we would have known about it. It would have been speculated. It would have been more speculated than Roderick Strong or Eric Young and stuff like that. I'm like, okay, that's not a thing. Then I'm like,
I will say
I
could see EC3 like actually like being very on board with keeping that as on the down low as possible. But
and I think his issue was
just the way
with,
people.
His issue was with DeMott anyway, and not.
Yeah, he was
WWE.
with several people that didn't want to be there under DeMott.
Yeah. So I'm just like, what? Bo Dallas, Tyson Kidd. I'm like racking my brain. I'm like, I there's nobody who's left NXT to necessitate the return. And I guess Elias Samson is kind of the best one right now, unless it's like, you know, the classic NXT repackaging somebody who's been barely on TV kind of thing, where it's like, and Tyler Breeze came to my mind as well. Unless it's NXT repackaging somebody like, you know, Angela Dawkins or Steve Cutler or, you know, any of those guys to be like, I'm just like, well, their last few vignettes, man, have been like huge.
Yeah. I could see it being Elias Samson because they obviously, I mean, they put a lot of time into his vignettes prior to him originally debuting. And I could see them wanting to build up. Hey, he's coming back, and we want you to cheer him. He's a good guy. We want you to cheer him.
Remember all the
he's
time
a rock
you cheered,
star. He's a rock star.
You cheered Damian Sandow. Well, here's the new Damian Sandow. We want you guys to cheer. I was trying to look up exactly.
That's what kept throwing me off. I kept thinking Damian Sandow because they have a similar face.
Yeah. What did I say? I always said that he was the love child of Damian Sandow and Adam
Alex
Rose.
Riley.
No. Alex Riley. No. Alex Riley, yeah, because of the hair.
Yeah.
Alex Riley and Damian
well, in the
Sandow.
build, he's built like a freaking brick house. I mean, he's got a great look. He just didn't have the best gimmick, and then he got really hurt. So
I'm looking just to see. I don't really have anything. Like normally, it kind of gives a footnote saying injured, out 3 to 4 weeks on the like the official Wikipedia NXT roster page, as accurate as this is going to be. But normally it will say like, you know, these guys wrestling
on Samson.
Yeah,
I mean he broke a bone, I believe. Like
I know, but it's been so long since he's been out that the footnote's not even there anymore.
Yeah,
of him being out of action.
But what else we got going on for NXT?
I don't know. What did I miss?
Well, we had the other tag team matches. It was all. Was it all tag team matches? Yeah, it was.
Yeah.
So DIY gets the win in the forfeit, and I loved the Twitter fallout from that when it happened, because there were all the wrestling rags. Not all, but several of the wrestling rags were like, "Oh man, Scott Dawson is injured. He's at the ring with crutches. He came to the ring on crutches. Like, people literally got worked that hard that they were reporting that he was out with an injury. And so he eventually got annoyed with it and went on Twitter and like showed himself, like he sort of walked from the left side of the screen to the right side of the screen and, you know, was on his crutches, and then he picked up the crutches and threw them down and just walked off. Or no, he turned toward this camera and said, "Idiots," and just walked off.
Oh, did he? Nice.
Yeah. Because he's just like how are you reporting this stuff as like stuff that happened exclusively within the realm of the show, and you're reporting it like it was an actual injury, especially when there was another injury angle on that same show. It's amazing.
That's why I said it was
amazing.
That's why I'm like, maybe this was an unfortunate redo because they just did 2 injury spots in a row. I'm like, well, one of them was unavoidable and the other one was already taped. That's the consequence of taping TV so far in advance.
Yeah.
Who knows? And then I'm kind of like, well, then when the other match happened in the same arena as the Austin Aries, the Roderick Strong match, I'm like, yeah. I'm like, maybe it wasn't a redo after all. So
yeah, and then
you had Sanity.
Yep.
I kind of wish Sanity had like a little bit of a better, like, I feel like the main event match should have been Strong and Thorne, just because it was the stronger of all the matches.
It was a great
match.
match.
No pun intended.
Yeah, but it was a
like
great
it
match.
felt like a 5-star. Like if it wasn't, but it felt like a 5-star indie classic, just with the late kickouts and stuff, like the psychology of it.
Yep.
And it felt really good. And then Sanity is the main event, and I love them. And it just felt like that was just a match. Like they didn't even have a post-match beatdown or anything.
No.
Or like much of a ugly face standoff into the camera. But
yeah, they got to close the show, but like it really, like I was kind of working on some stuff while I was watching NXT, so I didn't get. I'm probably gonna have to rewatch the show. I saw it, but I just kind of saw it, and instead of fully enjoying what was happening, but it was weird to me because I was watching the ending, and I didn't know it was the ending. Like, it didn't occur to me that they had shown the trademark stuff, the copyright stuff.
Yeah.
And so they went into the next thing, and then the next show started. What was it? It was probably, I don't even remember. It was whatever the next show was on the network, and I'm like, oh, that was it. It was kind of, so to your point, it was kind of anticlimactic.
Yeah. I mean, when you have a gimmick that's like so like insane, they're insane. They're mental patients. I really feel like Nikki Cross should be in a straitjacket, and then like the whole hook of it should be they take the jacket off her at the end of the match, and she just goes to town people on the opponents.
Yeah, that's cool.
Like rabid dog, kind of foaming at the mouth, biting them on the shoulder, kind of crap.
Sure.
But at least a sort of post-match beatdown or whatever. But I mean, you have like 2 golden boys in the ring with Perkins and Ibushi, so they really can't beat them down.
Yeah,
because there's no long play there. It was just kind of like a one-off match. But
yeah, I mean, you got the by the book, don't do anything crazy with this outsider guy and your recent cruiserweight champion. You don't want to just destroy them in the ring.
Absolutely.
So that looks bad for both of them. So, well, cool, man. Well, I think we had a full show. We kind of ran it all down. TNA still exists for those still wondering. It still exists.
What's the Halloween candy situation over at the house?
We didn't get a lot. We just went to a festival. We didn't go marching around and we
No, I'm not talking about you dressing up and getting candy from someone's doorstep. I mean, what'd you give out?
That's what I was trying to tell you. We just went to a festival, and so we weren't home, and so we didn't buy candy to give out because we were those guys that left all our lights on and left the house off and left the house off, not on.
You realize a lot of people are like lining up to egg your house now?
No, they're not.
They should be.
No. My neighborhood is old people and really young kids. So
what?
My neighborhood is old people and people with young kids. That's just That's not my kind of neighborhood.
My parents live in a cul-de-sac kind of like area. Growing up, everyone was my age, either 2 years above or below. Like we were all in the same grade, same school, stuff like that. Almost every house. And there used to be a huge thing on Halloween. My dad would bring out camcorder. There was like never an end of people walking down the street. They had 0 people last year. They had 1 person this year.
Yeah, it's weird. Our people band together and they do like the big roving mob of children, which is kind of cute and kind of terrifying.
Yeah, they don't have. I mean, they don't have that. Like my parents would gladly give away candy. So in lieu of that, we have all these M&Ms, plain peanut butter, Butterfingers, and Reese's peanut butter cups that I've just been taking and eating all week. It's pretty nice.
Shrimp kebab, shrimp scampi, shrimp on the
no, I don't like food in my candy. I like candy. I like peanut butter in my candy.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whatever it is for you. I'm the Duke. He's the Larry, and
we are the 3 Musketeers. See you later. Because it's candy. Get it?
Steve Blackman.
Get. Oh my god.
All right, give me a test real quick. Testing. What you got?
Hello. How are you today?
Hello, Larry.
November 2nd.
How are you?
Stop talking over me when I'm trying to talk.
I'm checking the levels. I'm seeing how they. Okay.
Exclamation point.